Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the Business Breakfast Briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts and civic leaders to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. Before I start, I'd just like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, who also provide me with great coffee every week as well. So if you like the show, please like, share and subscribe. Okay, let's meet the panel. We have Phillip Bishop. He's the Managing Director of award-winning estate agents Perry Bishop. They've got 6 offices covering Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire and Wiltshire. So we'll find out what's happening in the housing market. Is it slowing down? We'll ask him the big questions. We've got Deborah Flint. She's the co-owner of Cinderhill Farm at St. Briavels, Forest D, famous for its handmade sausage rolls. They have 16 staff. They make a staggering 500,000 sausage rolls every year. And they'll be appearing in Channel 4 Cotswold Farm Shop on Monday at 8 o'clock. So we'll find out what happened behind the scenes. We've got Amelia Black. She's the co-owner and founder of Tetbury Pet Shop and also the owner of Nuts for Friends. So they're a wholesaler and they sell around between 450 stores across the UK. So we'll find out what's big in pet food and the pet market. And finally, never last not least, we've got Silas Miller. He's a director of WSP Solicitors. They have 2 practices, Gloucester and Stroud, 65 staff, and they are very busy. And we'll find out why. Okay, let's see what's happening in the national newspapers. Let's share the screen here. Okay. We're coming for you, Vlad, says the Metro. The Financial Times. Putin breaks silent on Podjodji's to confirm Wagner warlord is dead. The Eye. Bomb blew up Putin critics' jet. The Guardian. US says bomb most likely cause of Podjodji's crash. But the story that's caught my eye there is the alarm over the record gap between North and South from the GCE grades. The Sun. With deepest sympathy, so sorry I killed him, says Putin. The Daily Mail, Putin's chilling taunt over his rival's mistakes. But what caught my eye here is the program that I really, really enjoy is, and just like that, Samantha's back, apparently. The Times, Podjodjin's made serious mistakes, declares Putin. The Daily Telegraph, he was a talented businessman who made mistakes, says Putin. The Daily Express, PM, vast 4 billion spend on asylum is unacceptable. And the Daily Mirror, cops were closing in on her dad. Very sad story here. And the Daily Staff, last not least, curse of the spooky child. And we just spend a second to look at that because that is pretty spooky. I would not have that in the wall of my house. Okay, thanks ever so much for joining us today, the panel. Silas, let's start with you, please. What have you picked out from the press?
Sure. So, morning, everyone. One of the stories that I picked out that were in some of the news today was around the energy cap lowering, and that's Ofgem, energy regulator Ofgem, apparently slashing the energy price cap down to £1,923 for an average household. As with a lot of these headlines, though, there's often a lot more that you can read into them. Similarly, with things like wages and inflation, and actually, the report from The Independent does go on and say many households will actually likely be paying more than last year, even with the rollback, due to government support, with energy bills no longer in existence. So although it looks like a fantastic morale-boosting headline, actually, as soon as you start peeling back the layers of the onion, it starts to not quite look as good as originally billed. I'm just reading on, and this does say that it is going to be the lowest energy cap since March 2022, and which again does sound positive. But here, National Energy Action, the charity, have warned that 6.3 million households could still be trapped in fuel poverty this winter. So it really is, although a very positive looking headline, there really is sort of still a huge issue out there in terms of cost of living, fuel poverty, and how much our energy is costing us. And I know from looking at that from another angle as a business owner, we're seeing it too. You know, we're seeing it in our daily operations, getting in, turning the lights on, running our servers. You know, all of that is having an impact on our day-to-day, the way we do business. And again, we deal with families a lot, with a lot of family law, and we're seeing the impact it's having on our clients too. So it's a tough one. Like I said, although positive on the surface, you know, we're definitely not out of the woods yet in terms of how much we're paying for our energy.
Well, no, thanks ever so much. I'm going to actually pass this over to Deborah and Amelia as well. Very well, all of you run shops. Everything's gone up. I mean, if I'm making 500,000 sausage rolls every year, the heat that is required to do that, your energy bill must have gone through the roof, Deborah. Just very quickly, what's it gone up to?
Yeah, we actually had Radio 4 and Radio 5 Live come on and broadcast from the farm in the autumn last year because of the impact that it's had on our business. We're going up from what was a couple of years ago, £6,500 a year bill. My best estimate at the moment is just over £90,000 from
90,000. Sorry,
90,000
from 6,500 to 90,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
We use a lot of energy because we have freezers going a lot of the time. We have chillers, we have blast chillers, blast freezers, cookers, and load up vans and have to keep them on chill before they go out. It's crippling. We've actually got a solicitor involved. It's there's a group of people trying to challenge the situation, and we have not been accepted yet. We've had to appeal against the grant which you have to apply for, because no matter, we've sent videos, photographs, affidavits from our accountant and various other things to say we are a producer of sausage rolls, but they claim we haven't yet managed to prove that we use electricity for manufacturing.
Unbelievable.
Okay, thanks.
I think you pay somebody to not give you the grant.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, Phil, you got 6 stores. Your bills must go up, and Amelia, again, you guys, both of you, just quickly, Phil, what's been the sort of situation there?
We don't bake sausage rolls or have freezers, but we still have the lights on all day long. So our energy costs have gone up. We were about 1,500, 2,000 a month, and that's about 5,000 a month now. So it's significant, isn't it? And it's the same for everybody, at home, and but people don't always think about the businesses. That's not their fault or their problem, but I think you mainly focus on domestic side of things.
Well, that's right, and that's what the headline says. But for us, ultimately, all those prices have to be passed up the chain. So if you're making a sausage roll, or you're doing your estate agents, or Amelia, you're selling your pet food, you can't sell it the same price, surely. What's the price of your electricity gone up? Sorry for me to focus on this, by the way. I think it's important.
For us, we don't know because we only opened the store last kind of October. So for us, it's been the same. But with the groom room, obviously having an electric shower and then having a blaster as well for drying the dogs, you can see on our little electricity meter the price going up every hour. We also have raw food, which freezers have to be on as well. So that costs a lot. A lot of other pet shops have just got rid of raw food because they can't afford the freezers. So that obviously affects a pet's diet and other things as well.
Right. Okay. Well, this is the thing. It affects us all, doesn't it? Okay. Well, let's go back into talking about the newspapers. Okay. Thanks for that, Silas. Just kicking that off. Deborah, let's go to you. What have you picked out from the national news stories?
Well, I picked out the train strike, the latest in a long series of train strikes this summer. I think I read it was the 24th, but I don't think there have been 24 days of summer, so I don't know quite how they work that one out. But it's going to affect things like Notting Hill Carnival, the Leeds Festival, the Reading Festival. I certainly have young members of our family who will be affected by their ability to get there. Of course, the focus is always on the union members and the reasons that they're doing it, and also the people who use the transport that's affected. But my mind goes to all those businesses that are having to try and estimate or have already purchased goods for people in transit, the people who run the cafes and stalls and things around those events and at the stations and so forth. And it makes planning for them very difficult. There will be people who have got too much stock, people who don't, going to have problems seeing stuff through. So that it doesn't just affect the people passing through, but can really affect small businesses who are dependent on these sorts of events to perhaps boost other sales of other times of the year. If people aren't getting there or aren't passing by their shops, their seasonal income from what is, I believe, the busiest day of travel of the year this weekend will really hit them badly.
I totally agree. And there's a company called Wolfies, I don't know if you know, Garden Foods, that they supply GWR with porridge. And of course, you're right, they probably were hit by that as well. I don't want to guess, but it must affect everybody around there. Thanks ever so much for that, Deborah. Okay, let's go over to you, Philip. There is a time delay, so what I'll try and do is not ask you too many questions, but if you tell us what's caught your eye, and we'll let you carry on, shall we say?
Yeah, will do. All over the news recently, and particularly this week, is the housing crisis, and it's a story that I feel really conflicted about being in the property industry. But the cost of living, not just on the value of property, but I'm more talking about the private rented sector. So it was on the evening news 2 or 3 nights ago, and it's all over the newspapers that it was in London, but there were 3 or 4 families. So these are working people. They're not out of work looking for employment. They're working people, couples with children, and they're homeless. They have nowhere to live due to affordability. And either affordability or just they can't find the right property that suits their needs. Maybe it's a combination of the 2 things. And I was just so sad to see that they're living in hotels, living in bed and breakfasts. There was one family that had a tent in a friend's garden with 2 young children. And then you think of the mental health side of that, and my heart just goes out to them, really. And what on earth is, how have we got to this? People would be staggered in an affluent country like ours that's happening. And I feel desperate for them that they're not suddenly going to get this sorted out tomorrow or next week or next month. They're in that for the long haul. I think they're going to be taking their children to school from a tent, or sort of waking up in a tent. And I just think it's really, really sad. And why is this happening? It's getting exaggerated because of the housing crisis. Because of the cost of living. Therefore, the housing crisis is getting worse. But fundamentally, we don't have enough housing stock in this country. So, new developments, we get involved in land and development. New developments will have often low-cost housing, whether it's shared ownership or some sort of housing association rent. But the volumes just aren't enough. And I can't help thinking, if there was a development behind my back door on the field behind, I'm sure we wouldn't be very happy about it. But we need to stop this NIMBYism as a country and start realizing that we've got a big problem, and the planning system is choked up and really slow and really constipated. And most of the time, you can't build on open space. I get that and I respect that, but only 10% of our country is built on. We have 90% open land. And I think we've got to really start thinking about, as much as open land is lovely and pleasant and gorgeous, do you want people living in tents in people's back gardens? I suspect not. So I just think we've got to get our heads around taking a very different view for the future.
No, totally agree. It seems terrible. You can't believe it. This day and age, isn't it? This is still happening. Thanks ever so much for that, Philip. Okay, Amelia, let's go over to you. What have you picked out from the papers?
So, as having a shop on the high street myself, I was pretty interested to see that Wilko's gone into administration. They have about 100 stores on high streets across the UK. They're kind of seen as a budget brand, and I'm just wondering kind of how they've gone down when things like B&M and Home Bargains are doing really well at the moment. Whether they've gone down because they're on a high street rather than kind of like a retail park, or is there something kind of underlying in what they were offering that wasn't kind of working out for people anymore? So it's something which is quite interesting. And it's kind of interesting to me to see what will happen, whether anyone will pick that up.
Well, it's 12,000 jobs. That's the saddest part of that story, really. And
Yeah.
I think the company itself, if I've got it right, overgeared, they overborrowed and didn't pay their suppliers in the end. If you go into a Wilko in Gloucester, it's half empty, or half full, depending which way you want to look at it, really. And the competition is fierce, and you're not making the margins like anything, isn't it? You're not going to last on, really. But yeah, terribly sad. Was it a store that you visited, Amelia?
It isn't actually. I haven't been to a Wilko for a very long time. Probably when I was like 15.
Right. Okay.
Actually, but they were interested in having a pet section, so we had spoken to one of their buyers previously. So yeah, it's a shame.
Do you go to other pet shops, just while we're on this, do you go and look around other pet shops like Pets at Home and see what's going on? Or I suppose you have a pet shop, but you're also looking as a wholesaler to try and
so luckily I can kind of play both sides. So yeah, there's a new pet shop actually in Cirencester, but we stock them, so I can't be annoyed.
There's always a flip side to business. That's the way to be, isn't it? If you can do both sides of the coin, you're on a bit of a winner, really. Okay, well, thanks ever so much for that. Okay, well, let's quickly move on, and we're talking about our own individual business sectors. We're going to go to you, Silas. Obviously, we know that you guys are busy, but it's about that marketing side, because you're not a solicitor, are you? You're the director of marketing as well. Wearing that hat, there are different times of the year that you drive your marketing. Let's be honest, it's summertime, people break up.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're absolutely right. I'm marketing director, so non-legal. My background is marketing. But sit on the board with everyone else, and yeah, you're right. I mean, there are very key times in the year where, I mean, traditionally things happen, and we gear our marketing around that. Whether that's our residential conveyancing around buying and selling houses, whether or not that's to do with our family law and some of the sort of traditional times you'd associate with people needing family lawyers more so than others. But I mean, the marketing as a whole of legal practice is a really interesting place to be at the moment, because you can, obviously it's all about competitive advantage, but the real key elements within that is we live in such a sort of cross-generational market at the moment, to the point where we're having people in their early 20s buying houses, all the way through to people in their 80s, 90s, updating their wills. And obviously, people in their early 20s want to receive a service, be marketed to, be communicated with in a wholly different way than someone in their late 80s would. And my challenge as a marketer is actually, how do we position WSP solicitors as appealing to Gen Z, tech-focused, really progressive, but also at the same time have that sort of traditional hand-holding family solicitor approach the sort of other areas of the market want to see from a solicitor. And it's striking that balance, and alongside that, sort of client expectation is growing dramatically. Clients are expecting more and more from solicitors, and we have to manage the sort of reputational element of that too. Our lawyers are subjected to a really sort of hard review-based culture, which is now just a necessary part of the market that we've got to sort of tackle head on. And luckily for us, we've been around for 260 years, and our reputation is good locally. But yeah, that's a lot of the time where we have to compete is on those stars that Google spits out based on client reviews.
And let's be honest, the client base, because we all deal with clients and people that deal with a customer, not talking about business to business now, they are difficult. I hate to say it, the customers themselves are more difficult than it's ever been. That's the feedback I get. They're more demanding than anybody else. Phil, I'm going to go back over to you. Thanks ever so much for that, Silas. Let's go back to you, Phil. Let's talk about your business, the housing market. Obviously, you're dealing with customers all the time. Is it slowing down? Is it getting, is it time to worry a little bit? Should you sell? Should you hold? What's the sort of situation?
The market has slowed down in 2023, and it started slowing down since Liz Truss did her work experience. But you need to put that in context of the market went crazy through the pandemic. So inevitably the media talk about headlines and they'll talk about one property market, but actually there isn't one property market. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of property markets, in little pockets up and down the country. And the areas that we operate in and live in are not immune to a downturn, but I think less affected. In volume, the market went through the roof in the pandemic, and we had 20, 25, maybe 30% more people moving house. And that sort of restriction on people's lives, really, when we were allowed to get out and do stuff, people wanted to get on and move or extend their house or change their car or whatever they wanted to do. So there was a surge in the housing market. All that's happened, we've gone back to pre-pandemic numbers. So the headline is the market may be dropping by 25% in transaction numbers. Put that in context, it's gone back to normal, back to 2018, 2019 numbers. So the Cotswolds property market is remarkably resilient. Probably only 50% of our transactions require mortgage finance. To be fair, the mortgage side is an issue. People have been paying 2% on their mortgage, which might have been the average, or 3%. And now they're paying 5, 6, 7%. That's a big deal. That's significant. On top, that would be significant in a normal economy, but on top of what we're paying for electricity, as we talked about earlier, and the cost of living and inflation, that's a big problem. But the market is holding up very well.
Right, and of course, you guys have been around a long time, and I'm probably the only person that's around that's been to every single one of your stores. Oh.
Yeah. We have got a few people that have moved house with us in most of those locations, believe it or not. People have gone from Tetbury to Stroud or over to Malmesbury and Cirencester. But yeah, you are a frequent and very welcome visitor, Mark.
Well, that's always lovely to say. And do you know what? Whenever I go in there to deliver my magazines, your staff are always extremely friendly. Always. I can't fault them on that. But most people are, I'll be honest with you. But thanks for that, Phil. Great to see you there. Okay, let's go over to you, Deborah. Let's talk about Channel 4. You're on TV.
We are.
And you're on this Monday, so if you're watching it later on, you can get it back on playback. But anyway, Channel 4 TV. Did it take a long time to film?
Oh, I can't tell you how long it took, yes. So you think you've said something and they'll ask you to repeat it, and then repeat it again, and then repeat it again. And you kind of think, you get to the point where you can't quite remember what you said the first time, but they want it all to be seamed together. That's fine with human beings, but try doing that with pigs.
It's not going to work.
280 kilo pigs.
So what was the hardest part of the show for you? Was it having them around the whole time, and were they there for a couple of days, a couple of hours, just following you around?
We had such a lovely group of people working with us. We really enjoyed having them. In fact, during the time that they were with us, we scheduled to have our team lunch. We live in the middle of nowhere. You can't pop out to Boots for something to eat or anywhere else, really. So we try at least once a month to gather together, and we have a team meal. And they joined in with that with us. I think the one thing that will be hard for me is that our dog Levi has passed since it was filmed. We now have little Pippin, who's been joining in this show this morning, but she's taken Levi's place. But that'll be quite hard to see him on screen again.
Yes,
that said, lots of people we know have already caught it on catch up. We decided to do it the old-fashioned way and wait and watch each week, because we've enjoyed seeing people, other producers that we know from the region, over the last 3 weeks, seeing their programs on the show.
Of course, you're there on is Gloucester Services, and you sell an awful lot of sausage rolls through there and other products as well. And I was there for the launch of the television program. Around 80 odd people there as well. It was great to see all the different producers all mixing together and having a great day. To you, what's going to be the highlight? Obviously, I'm assuming you're going to hope to get lots of sales out of this. Well,
to be honest, the sales have already shot up. So we're working long hours, night as well as day at the moment. And the van's just gone off before we started to get to Gloucester Services with our biggest ever order. And I can tell you that's a big order. But last time we were on a TV program with them, which was Country File, we had people turning up at the farm. We don't sell them from the farm. We push it out to other local businesses, including obviously Gloucester Services. And we had people following the van to the services, which they knew was full of sausage rolls, to buy them when they came back over the counter. There they are.
I just want to show everybody, just in case you've never seen these sausage rolls before.
Look amazing.
Absolutely.
Rolls of great enormity.
I think
how long does it take to make each sausage roll?
Well, the team working on it are faster than me now. I obviously started making them, but we now have a team of people making them. I'm much slower than most of them, but I can make about 130, 140 in an hour. Some of those will be nearly double that. Wow. But it's all the work around it, the cleaning up. As you change from one flavour to another, you've got to have a full clean down. They've got to chill very quickly. They've got to get from 98 degrees or whatever they come out at, that particular bake. They've got to get down to 4 degrees within 90 minutes. Our target is within 40. Then you've got to pack them, get them out. So it takes quite a long time to go through all the processes that they need to go through to be safe, because it's a high risk product, a ready cooked meat product, and we deliver them ourselves to ensure the continuity of cold chain right the way through.
Deborah, they are absolutely delicious.
As an eco farm, I would just like to give a shout out to BF11, our van BF11, which has just turned 450,000 miles this week, and is a testimony to our local mechanic who's kept it on the road, Darren. So thank you, Darren, for that.
Make sure he watches this show.
I shall.
Thanks, Deborah. Amelia, let's go over to you. Obviously, how long have you been in business now, and how did you get to make Nuts for Friends? And I'm going to Nuts for Pets. Nuts for Friends.
Got to be nuts for mutts, surely.
Nuts for mutts. I'm going to try and share a screen here. So while you're talking as well, I'm going to see if I can find the other screen. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can share a second.
Amazing. Yeah, so we started Nuts for Pets back in early 2019. So Alistair and I were Amazon sellers, selling another peanut butter for dogs, and it contained palm oil. So we decided to kind of change the recipe, create our own, and it was only going to be for Amazon, but it kind of snowballed. People started asking us for the product to sell in their own shops. So we started selling it wholesale, and then we created a turmeric peanut butter. So we're kind of looking for adding flavour and benefits to a dog's treats and diets, and just kind of helping things be a bit more interesting for them. So we now have 8 products under Nuts for Pets, and we're growing that as well. And
how many wholesale, how many clients do you have at the moment? How do you get them to them? Do you manufacture it there as well, or what's the process?
We don't manufacture it ourselves. It's our own recipe, but it's made just outside London now, actually. So it goes off to 2 of the largest pet wholesalers in the UK, and then also we sell to individual shops as well.
And how much does it normally retail for? Obviously, you've got the different ones, but the main product, the starting product.
The main one sells for £4.99.
Okay, and your shop there in Tetbury, you've been open there a little while now, and it's doing really well, because when I first met you, you'd only just opened, and you've already got a manager as well.
Yeah, we opened, it's kind of another arm of Nuts for Pets, so we still really need to focus on that company. But having a shop is such a nice luxury. Being in here and meeting people and being part of the community is really nice for us. So we opened the pet shop in October last year, and we've got space upstairs, that's groom room, and we're actually looking to open another shop in a new location already, because it has done really well here. So that's quite exciting.
Can I ask where it's going to be? Can you give us an exclusive, Amelia?
I guess I could. We're looking at Bath. Bath doesn't have a pet shop, which is kind of shocking.
Well, I'm not surprised. You know, I used to be the advertising manager of the Bath Chronicle.
Oh, amazing.
There we go. It's a small world. And you're right. Bath itself would be fantastic for you. The right demographic. I could just see it.
Yeah. We love kind of having that tourist industry as well. So we get a lot of tourists, obviously, in Tetbury because of Highgrove. And I think that really boosts the shop and boosts awareness. So we want to keep that going.
And I know someone with a sausage dog that might be coming to see you very shortly.
I look forward to meeting the naughty sausage dog.
Yeah, you'll regret that.
Anyway, guys, we're kind of running out of time. Thanks ever so much for that, Finlay. Right, okay, let's do the pick of the punchlines. What have we got for this week? Silas, what have you picked out for the punchline, please?
Cool. Quick fire for you. Obviously, we're a firm with a long-standing history in Stroud. So I think yesterday, the Forest Green Rovers Stadium, the Eco Park video, architectural mock-up, and everything sort of was posted on Punchline, and I think there's some updates with the planning there. Looks amazing, really exciting. Yeah.
And it's going to be a game changer. Absolutely, game
absolutely.
Changer for that area. Thanks ever so much for that one. Phil, what have you picked out, Philip?
The Cheltenham Tivoli Boutique Cinema going into administration. I'm really, really sad to read about that. And I've got no idea, but I've got a suspicion that actually locally it's been doing quite well. Because every time I've been there, it's packed, and it's just such an amazing cinema experience, and it's beautifully done, a bit Art Deco and really cool. Have something to eat, go and watch a movie. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But it's part of the Empire Cinemas group, and so I think it's sort of been pulled down because of that. I think it's still trading, but in administration, a bit like Wilkinson's looking for a buyer. And I just hope for Cheltenham that a buyer's found, and what I suspect is probably quite a good business locally continues to trade.
It's funny, I looked at their company accounts actually, and the main problem seems to be about COVID. They just never really bounced back, went out of cash, and just fell apart. So yeah, fingers crossed somebody might buy it up. It's a great location, and like you said, it's very, very different. Thanks for that, Phil. Okay, Deborah, what have you picked out from this week? It's the pick of the punch, please.
Yeah, Wooden Stadium.
Okay, yes, the GWR Stadium.
Yeah, just fascinating. I think partly because of working with Gloucester Services, looking at wooden structures and things, and living in the Forest of Dean, a source of a great deal of wood. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, sorry, I said GWR Stadium, but I meant to say Greenwich Stadium. Someone will write to me and point that out if I don't write myself. Amelia, what have you got for the pick of the punchlines, please, today?
So I was looking at the 26 new charging locations being rolled out in Gloucestershire. It's pretty vital that as a kind of an electric car driver myself, I really noticed that a lot of places don't have the facilities when I go to a small town or a village to actually charge. So I think it's really vital to tourism, to the local community, that we actually start putting more of these chargers in place. I think they're planning to do 2 in every location, which is a great start, but I think they might need to hurry themselves a little bit to get a couple more in, because there's big queues everywhere, always.
It's just, let's be honest, it's just not enough. The infrastructure is just not enough. And they want us all to go electric. I'm going to keep to my diesel at the moment, my big Hyundai. But there we go. Hey guys, that's all we've got time for. My story of the week actually has to be the £39 million redevelopment of the old car park in Gloucester, the student accommodation for 500 students. That is going to be a game changer when Debenhams open as well. But 500 extra students running around, hopefully helping the nighttime economy of Gloucester, and also the transformation of the area itself. As I always say, Gloucester is definitely on the up. It's taken a while, but it's getting there. Anyway, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And just like to thank my fantastic panel of guests today. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Thanks for joining Punchline. If you enjoy the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Can't say that enough. And I'd like to thank our amazing sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Thanks ever so much. Until next week. Next week, it's all in the punchline. Bye.